Hello, Skill Incarnate with another episode of Project Zomboid. This is going to be another tutorial following on from my second attempt at the mining tutorial. I didn't feel that I covered mining in enough detail, and after my second go at the mining tutorial I don't think I really covered the stuff that you get from the mine. So in the last episode I showed you how to build a mine, and I've actually done some mining to illustrate what you actually can get from the mine. I've filled these boxes with the various items that you can get. Now, obviously, I don't have a full foraging skill. The first thing that you're going to need for a mine to actually use it is a pickaxe, which I have here. The pickaxe gives you the best chance of finding the good stuff from the mine. If you don't have a pickaxe, you can also use a spade, or you can also, in a pinch, use a trowel. I believe that it does take longer to mine with a trowel or a spade than a pickaxe, which makes sense. Right click on either the pickaxe or the mine hole and you'll have the option to mine. You can mine once or mine all, which means that you'll continuously mine. So when you click that, you can then just accelerate time and you'll continually mine until you either fill your inventory or you have, basically you can just keep mining forever. You have to keep an eye obviously on your water and food and just make sure you don't die while you're mining. So the main thing that you get from mining is stone. We have about 500 stone here. That's been collected over the process of just 3 days of mining. So you can amass a quantity of stone very quickly. Stone has several uses in this game. The first and most useful way to use stone is to make a mortar and pestle. The mortar and pestle will let you crush down various items to make different medicines and foods. One example of this is you can crush down salt that you find in the mine and make salt powder, for which you can refill your salt shaker. You can use that for preserving food, and we're going to do a future tutorial on food preservation, but you use salt to fill your salt shaker. You need to have an empty salt shaker in order to do that, and it's very easy to find a salt shaker. They're in any kitchen. So moving on to the different things that you can find in the mine, I've divided the items into 3 boxes here. Oh, actually, I think it's about 6, but in any case, here's all the ores that you can get, and this is the most common item that you'll find in a mine. Albite ore. I'll be honest, I don't know what that actually does. I haven't used it yet. Bauxite ore you can smelt down to make brass ingots. Borax I believe you use in making soap. Chalk I don't think has a use yet. The last time I checked the Project Zomboid, the Hydrocraft wiki. Again, cinnabar, I don't think that has a use, so I may be wrong about that. I haven't checked it for about a week or so. Coal is used in making gunpowder, which, because we have the Ortman's Guns mod, that's going to be quite useful. Copper can be smelted down into copper ingots, to which we can make weapons. Diamatite, I'm not sure what the use of that is. Feldspar at this point doesn't have a use. Gold ore can be used to create gold ingots, which will get you the best type of weapons currently in the Hydrocraft mod. Graphite, again, I believe that's used in several chemistry recipes. I haven't gotten to the point where I can do chemistry yet. The same with gypsum. Jade doesn't have a use at the moment. Lead, again, is used in making bullet tips, which we'll be doing when we get some more of this. We're going to start making bullets. Limestone is used to make a limestone milk solution, which we use to make leather. Lithium is used in the production of batteries. So all these ore types are found by mining. Marble, at the moment, I believe it can be used to make marble statues and little structures, mainly decorative. Quartz, I believe, is used in again in electronics, which I haven't covered myself yet. Sandstone is crushed down into sand, which we can then make to smelt down, to smelt glass items such as glass containers. Very useful. We're going to probably cover that, probably maybe not in the next episode, but the episode after that. I'll need to actually get my hands on a mining drill or something to actually to break that sandstone down. I'll have to work out how to do that. Silver, again, can be made into the second strongest ingots. And sphalerite, I don't know what sphalerite is used for yet. Tin, again, tin ingots used in electronics. Titanium, at the moment, according to the wiki, does not allow you to actually make an ingot for it. Trona doesn't have a current use at the moment, neither does tungsten or uranium. Now, the most common items that you're going to be needing from mining, they're all the ores that you can get, and I apologise if some of the information is inaccurate. The wiki gets updated very regularly. These are two items that you can use that you'll get that are a little bit rarer. Rock salt is what I was talking about before. With a mortar and pestle, you can right click on rock salt and actually turn it into salt powder, which you can use to fill your salt shaker, so you can keep preserving food. And sulfur is used in making a sulfide solution, which is used in electronics for batteries. So moving on, we have chipped stone. You get these quite often. The most common use for chipped stone is to make stone axes and stone knives. It's used in weapons crafting. So we're actually going to do another episode of the weapons crafting tutorial, and I'm going to cover how to use these stones, now we've got them, to make stone axes, stone knives, and finally arrows. We can use these as arrowheads. You can also use bones, but for arrowheads, if you've read the archery book, which will let you turn these into arrowheads, and you need to get the archery, I believe the arrowhead schematic. So with an arrow and a pen and paper, you can actually create the arrow schematic. We're going to cover that in our archery tutorial coming up. And finally, clay. We have lots of clay here. I've gotten this all from the mine, very common. So that basically covers all the stuff that you get from the mine. So moving on, I'm going to make a smelter, because we're going to try and smelt some of these iron items here down into iron ingots. So, and you can make these items over here into ingots, any of these items as well. So we're going to do that now, after I've eaten. So if you've been watching the Let's Play series, my leg is still broken. Still have a fracture. So I've been keeping my foods up, trying to accelerate the healing process, so that after winter we can begin to go into town and start trying to take back some of the land that we've lost. The entire northern area of town is completely overrun at the moment. Anyway, moving on. So to make a smelter, we need a pallet of red bricks. Again, this can be found in any industrial area, same as where you would find tools. Place the red bricks into your inventory, right click and select unpack. You'll have all the bricks on the ground, so we're just going to pop these down for the moment till we have 50. Okay, because my leg's broken, I can't cancel the action to drop the brick, so we'll just let it finish in the moment. You can craft with the bricks on the ground, that's fine. I'll pop this wooden pallet here. And the next thing you need is a masonry trowel. You can get a masonry trowel in the same place in a warehouse area. You can also, with a hammer in your inventory and a regular trowel, right click on the trowel and select flatten trowel. I never recommend to do this if you only have one trowel, because if you go and bust your trowel, you won't be able to farm. I believe you can reverse it, but I've never been game to try. I always just go and find a masonry trowel. They're not hard to find. The next thing you'll need is grey clay. You need 25 units of grey clay. We have plenty. We're going to take one bag, and we're going to take 5 of these, so you get our 25 clay. We're going to unpack our bag of clay. We're going to right click when we're standing over the bricks. So our 3 ingredients, remember again, grey clay, masonry trowel and bricks. They must be red bricks. Select make smelter. And this will take a while. And sorry, the final thing I didn't mention that you need to do is to have read the Masonry book. The Masonry book will allow you to make a smelter. It also allows you to make a blast furnace. So the Masonry book can be found in the same location as any other of the books in the game. And we finally have our smelter. Now to use a smelter, the same as my tutorial with the kiln, you do have a danger of burning yourself. You must be very careful using the smelter because you will often hurt yourself. So the other thing you need is some charcoal. So we're just going to pinch this charcoal here. I went over how to make charcoal in my kiln tutorial. We're going to dump the charcoal here. Oh, I can't. There we go. And we need a pair of gloves, which I don't think I've got. I'm going to have to go and get some. So I can nearly run now, which is looking good. My leg is, it looks like my leg is healing nicely. So I'm pretty happy about that. When my leg fully heals, we're going to start going back into town and we're going to start taking out some zombies. Well, we should be able to do that when I'm able to craft the weapons from this mine. There we go. So I have some work gloves up here. Work gloves are easily found on dead bodies of zombies. They do have a very high spawn rate on dead bodies. You can also use a pair of oven mitts that you find from an oven. And we also need a pair of tongs. And I hope I've got some tongs, otherwise we're going to go for a bit of a look around to find some. Might make for a very boring tutorial if I don't have a pair of tongs. I thought I had prepared everything. Oh, I do. Excellent. Tongs. Excellent. Now the other thing that I should mention is that you want a fire retardant item to protect you. The Firefighter Jacket is heavy, but it gives you a bonus to protection against burns. So if you can use a Firefighter Jacket, do. It will give you that extra bit of protection. And the last thing that we want to take with us is a bucket. We need a bucket in case we end up getting burned, or in case we need to put out a fire. So exactly the same as what I was talking about in my tutorial around the kiln. You must be very careful not to burn yourself, but you must be very careful to not start a fire. And if you do start a fire, make sure you got a bucket of water to put it out, because you definitely don't want that spreading in your base. I'm doing this in winter, and I'm also doing this when it's raining. That does tend to mitigate the risk of this. But under normal circumstances, if I was not completely surrounded by zombies, I'd actually be doing this in a completely different building just to mitigate the risk of fire. But unfortunately, where we are standing is the only safe place. We are completely surrounded, and because I have a broken leg, there's not a lot I can do about it at the moment. In any case, we now have everything we need. We're going to do the most common thing with the smelter, is we're going to melt down one of those ingots, well, one of those ores that I was talking about earlier. These are ores, they're raw materials, and they need to be refined into ingots. To do that, you need an ingot mold. Now I covered this in the kiln tutorial, but if with one item of clay in your inventory, such as the grey clay, and with charcoal in your inventory as well, right click on your kiln. I also need an ignition source. Now, an ignition source can be a cigarette lighter, it can be a pack of matches, or in my cases I've made a lot of these notched wooden planks. The wooden plank itself is the ignition source. We have a forest surrounding my base, so it was very easy to make plenty of these. It also helps to level up my carpentry skill. In any case, we right click on the kiln and we can make an ingot mold. We'll make that now. Now, let's check my health. I haven't been burned. Excellent. We have 1 ingot mold. Now, on the smelter, we can now smelt an item down. We're going to pick one of our metal items. These are the 3 items that you can smelt down to iron. Iron is the most useful item, and we need that to make a anvil. The anvil will let us smash out the ore into the various tools that we need, swords, axes, and different tools. We're going to move into that. Once we've got some iron ingots, I'll move into another tutorial on how to use those ingots to make the various items. So we have tongs, we have work gloves, we have the thing that we want to smelt, and we have some charcoal and iron. The last thing that we're missing is an ignition source. Again, we'll grab some more of these wooden planks. I've made plenty. Right click on the smelter and make iron ingot. Now, one thing I should say, when you're making ingots, it's not smart enough to, if you right click on the smelter, to make an ingot based on the item that you want. So if you have another item in your inventory that you don't want to melt down, like say this was my last set of tongs, I don't want to melt these into an ingot. So the safest way to do it is either through the crafting menu, and you can find that here through the blacksmithing. Here, make iron ingot, and you just pick basically the one that suits you. Now obviously here's our ingredients: 1 smelter, 1 charcoal, 1 ingot mold which we've made, pair of tongs, the item that we want to melt down, and work gloves, as well as our ignition source, which is the wooden plank. We now know that we're smelting the item we want. So you can also, we'll close this, I can also right click on the item that I want to smelt and select make iron ingot. We'll make that now. Bam. We now have 1 iron ingot. That's our iron ingot there. You can do the same for any other type of ore. We're going to take a bauxite ore, and we're going to follow the same process. I'm going to get another ignition source. So depending on the map, you can also use a cigarette lighter. You can see here I really don't have a lot of lighter fuel, so I'm not going to be using the lighter unless I have to. If you live in Muldrow, for example, you'll find cigarette lighters and books of matches everywhere. Phoenix doesn't have a lot of those. I'm pretty low on matches and cigarette lighters. So we're going to... what are we missing? Interesting. I can't smelt down the bauxite. I may be missing a book for that. Let's pick copper. The process is the same for everything. There we go, copper ingot. We'll make a copper ingot. Bam. And there you go. That is how you use the smelter. So the common items that you're going to smelt down are iron, copper, silver, and gold. There are also other things like steel, but at the start of this tutorial, we're just going to concentrate on those 4 items because they're the most common items that we've got at the moment. I'm also the last thing that I'm going to go over is actually smelting down an item to an ingot recycling an item basically. So I'm just going to dump this stuff. We're going to go and grab something, and that's the last thing that I'm going to cover. I'm overloaded at the moment. So the most common thing to find are cooking items. I've got several of them. Fortunately, with a broken leg, it's kind of hard to run and go and get it at the moment. We're about probably a week off our leg fully healing. We're going to pick a kettle because I have so many of those. Actually, they're all full, so we're not going to waste the water, and we'll pick something else. Dustpan. I'll actually use a crowbar. So crowbars smelt down into 3 iron ingots. Unfortunately, it's very heavy, so we're going to try and... There we go. So I've been very fortunate in using this, using the smelter. I have not burned myself. I have not injured myself in any way. I think that Hydro may, if you are watching this, if you could let us know if you have actually tweaked the injury chance to the smelter. It seemed a little bit unfair before. I burnt myself nearly every single time I used it. It seems to be a little bit better now. I did burn myself. I do know that it still does burn you, but and that's fine. But it's nice for it to be less of a certainty. Okay. So again, we're going to grab our ingot mold. Go to our smelter. Grab another. We'll grab another wooden plank. And recycle. So we now have the option not to smelt, but to recycle. We're going to recycle this dustpan. Oh, I can't. I'm going to recycle our crowbar. So, again, be very careful when you're smelting items. I have really made some big mistakes where I've smelted the wrong item. There we go, recycle iron. There you go. So I've actually burnt myself. I burnt my torso. I need to clean the burn. And I need to bandage. We'll bandage. Now, one thing I should say, don't waste bottles of disinfectant. Burns, for some reason, do not require disinfectants. They only require you to regularly clean and change your bandage. Make sure that you do that, or you will end up causing the wound to become infected, and then you'll end up having to go burn through your disinfectant. And there we go. So that is how to make I've covered the things that you get from the finished mine, the different types of items that you get. I've covered the how to make a smelter. I've covered how to break down items, existing items such as pots, pans, and in our case a crowbar. And finally, I've covered how to smelt down ores that you get from the mine into their ingots. When I have enough of these iron ingots, we've now made 4, I'm going to make an anvil. And in our next tutorial, we're going to cover how to use the anvil. I believe Nomis has covered in his tutorials. I don't think he's made an anvil tutorial, so I actually struggled a bit with that. So hopefully this information should be helpful for you. If you like this tutorial, please subscribe. I've already had some positive feedback. People are finding the tutorials very helpful. I'm really glad that they're getting some benefit out of it. Let me know, and if you want to vote on what I should cover next, please leave me a comment. Thanks for your time, and in the next episode, we're going to cover, hopefully, the anvil. If I don't have enough iron for the anvil, we're going to do some advanced weapons crafting. Until then, Skill Incarnate out.